Hello, everyone. I'm Wyatt Andrews, CBS News Washington. Things are heating up in Copenhagen. The opening days of the climate change conference have been rife with controversial emails suggesting to critics that scientists have manipulated data to support the theory that planetary temperatures are rising. Critics around the world are calling this controversy ClimateGate. One of the emails in question shows that Phil Jones, who is the director of Climate Research Unit in England, was trying to hide the fact that tree ring data that scientists often use to track global temperatures has actually showed a cooling trend since 1960. He says in one email that he used a trick, that's a quote, to hide the decline. Joining me now from Capitol Hill is Republican Congressman Linder of Georgia, who is skeptical about the science of man-made global warming. Congressman, if I can start, I'd like your take on why these emails are important.
Well, I think the emails are important because it shows they're hiding data, it shows that they're suppressing opposition, and they were showing in their own computer, the structure of their computer program, they were fudging data. They used tree ring data for proxies for temperature going back 1,000 years from an island off Siberia where they tested 46 trees and 12 met their goal, so they threw out the other 34. The tree ring data then shows after 1960 things are declining, and it's better for their goal to show real temperatures that they could measure between 1975, for example, and 1998 when it actually warmed up a little bit. Actual measurements of temperature have been declining according to satellite measurements and ocean measurements for the last 11 years.
Now, Congressman, we check that with NOAA. I mean, the American authoritative experts, the weather folks here in the United States, they track global temperatures as well as temperatures here in the United States. They say the last 10 years, 9 of the last 10 years, have been the hottest on record ever. So how does that jive with what you just said?
NOAA manages 1,200 temperature locations in the United States, for example. Some of those things have been there for a long time, and civilization has grown up about them, such as tarmacs of airports, such as heating ducts. NASA has looked at this from not the terrestrial level, but from the higher in the sky, and said that their numbers are just simply wrong. We also have 3,600 instruments that go in the oceans and pop up about every 10 days and shoot their information to the satellites, and they show no change whatsoever.
But Congressman, if we can go back to the hiding the decline email, you are saying that it was wrong of them to use actual temperature data? That somehow they're being deceptive when they switch from tree ring data to actual temperatures?
Absolutely. We've had actual temperature excuse me, we've had actual temperature data for years and years, and they chose the tree rings instead, and well, it met their goals.
But part of the reason this is controversial and hide the decline was that they used the actual temperatures to show a spike in temperatures, therefore hiding the decline of tree ring data.
I agree.
So how is it deceptive if they use actual temperatures?
Well, they used one set of a data set up to 1961, and then they changed data sets, and they didn't tell anybody about it. The most skeptical thing I found, though, was trying to get some of these source documents and methods from scientists who usually release them gleefully so that other people can replicate their data. We tried to get Jim Hansen's data from NASA. He said it's his data, although he created every bit of it on the government dime, working for the government. But when you have a bunch of scientists going out of their way to prevent Freedom of Information Act requests to get source documents, you've got people hiding something.
Congressman, last week I interviewed Penn State professor Michael Mann, who was one of the academics identified as part of this effort to hide the decline. Mann told me that what hide the decline actually means is what you just mentioned, the substitution of actual temperatures. And so what he's saying is this wasn't so much hiding the decline as it was substituting the actual temperatures. He also said that the word trick is what scientists use to say, here's the way I solved the problem. Here's what Mann told me last week.
There was an editorial in the journal Nature last week which made very clear that the sense in which scientists and mathematicians often use the term trick is simply to describe a clever approach, a nice way to solving a problem, trick of the trade. Here's the trick to solving that problem. And so the reference to my work was simply describing something which was completely out in the open.
So you heard him there, Congressman. He's asserting that all of the data that he used was out in the open, available to the public, is available to the public now. But what do you make of his explanation of the word trick?
I'm going to tell you that if a pharmaceutical company would have tried an explanation like that and was fudging information on their work, doing it on a federal stipend or research document, I believe they'd put them in jail. If cancer researchers started hiding things from the public and fudging their data, they would be arrested. This is just out crazy. And to quote Nature, which is a journal owned lock, stock, and barrel by the global warming zealots, is hardly a place to go. It is very clear that they had influence over most of the scientific documents and scientific journals. Dick Lindzen is the Alfred P. Sloan Professor of Meteorology at MIT. He says they're not telling the whole truth. I asked Dick why he doesn't do more writing, and he said because nobody will publish me. The last time I was published in a climate bulletin, they fired the editor. These people are controlling all aspects of this, and they're all of a sudden being discovered.
But Congressman, on the list of people who might be controlled, you'd have to include NOAA, the Weather Service, NASA, the National Academy of Sciences, the American Medical Association, and the Lawrence Livermore Labs. I mean, do you think all of these folks are being taken in?
Yes, I think all of these folks are being taken in because all of the published documents are in support of human-caused global warming, and none of them are allowed to be published if they're not. If they're deniers or skeptics, they're not published. And so they're overwhelmed by these publications. There are 32,000 scientists, 9,000 of whom are PhDs and the rest masters in physical sciences, who have signed on to a document that said there's no evidence that humans are causing anything. We also know that we're being blamed for CO2. What we're exhaling and burning is causing all this temperature increase, but we know for a fact from the Vostok ice core in Antarctica that temperature changes precede the CO2 changes by 1,000 years. We had 1,000 years ago from today, Greenland was discovered and turned into a farming community by the Norsemen and exported things from Greenland. And in Scotland, they grew wine grapes. It was considerably warmer than it is today. These are natural variations of the climate in a 4.5 billion year old planet. 542 million years ago, during the Cambrian period, CO2 temperatures were 7,000 parts per million because it was very warm then. It also happened to be the most fertile time this planet has ever seen.
Congressman, of course, all of this comes in the overlay of the president heading off for Copenhagen next week. Obviously, all of this debate has policy implications. What is the importance of this to the president's trip to Copenhagen?
Well, if he follows along with what Al Gore said about 2 months ago, that the entire purpose behind this is global governance, or what the new president of the European Union said just 2 weeks ago, that we're just now on the start of a global governance of this planet, I think he would be signing over our sovereignty at the United Nations, and it would be a huge mistake.
Congressman, thank you very much for your time this afternoon and for explaining the significance of ClimateGate. We appreciate your time. Thank you. And for everyone else, thank you for watching Washington Unplugged today. Remember to catch us again tomorrow at 12:30 on CBSNews.com. For now, I'm Wyatt Andrews in Washington.